Welcome to the Craig and Greg Show, presented by Maximize Leadership. Here are Craig Owens and Greg Harris.
Hey, welcome to the Craig and Greg Show. I'm Craig. This is Greg. We are in the month of October with Halloween coming up, and sometimes people like to be scared or try to scare other people. But, you know, I've noticed that a lot of times after somebody gets scared, what usually follows is the giggles after that. But we want to talk about a leadership killer today that it really is seriously no laughing matter, because there are fears that I think really hold back a leader's potential.
Yeah. The builder killer segment we put in once in a while for our episodes have been very popular. So the builder is bravery or courage. The killer is fear. And when you look at bravery or courage, it maybe doesn't feel good to be challenged to have courage, but boy, do you feel empowered or stronger as a leader because you faced it. Fear reduces us as a leader. And I think as we go through today's segment, hopefully this will be just a really great challenge on breaking through the fears, like knocking down that mountain that you've always faced, even when you were a teenager and you became a new parent and you got into your career and wherever you are in your world. It's a challenge to battle that bravery. So address maybe how fear can paralyze or change, and what fears are our worst enemies.
Well, I think you nailed it, that fear shrinks our boundaries, because you know, when we try for something and it hurts, we never want to reach out as far. We reach out a little less that time. And if that hurts, then we reach out a little less that time. And I think fear just really constricts where we're trying to go. I'll be really transparent with the audience.
I love that word, by the way.
And one of the things that I struggle with is perfectionism. I want everything to be perfect. And I think that if that is something that somebody feels, I think a real fear is dropping the ball, making a mistake. And as a result, then you start to shrink back. You're like, well, then I'm not going to try for those things that are the big step. Let me just try for the things that I know that I can do. And maybe I say, I know I can do it perfectly. So, you know, I'm going to try to get there. But that never wanting to admit that you've messed up, that fear, boy, when you look back on it later on, you say, boy, did that really crimp what I was trying to do.
I think there's so many things that flow through us as leaders. Confidence ebbs and flows. And any fear messaging about, well, that's a really big client. You can't mess up with that client.
Right.
But you could mess up with a client that's a little smaller, like that client doesn't want to know that. And I do think there's a wall for us as leaders to break through. Sometimes we need another person to help us break through, some accountability or some encouragement.
Right.
I do think fear, a mistake, perfectionism is a really, really big one. One of the things I think you have shared in past discussions, maybe even on episodes, when you led a very big team at the camp for kids, you really dared them to try.
Right.
And I think that's something, please address for the audience. How do we get through the fear, whether we're leading them and we notice another person's fearful? How do we lead them through it? Or maybe it's us first. Maybe address that.
Well, I think one of the things that really helped me to overcome was the realization that I could stand in front of my team and look at them and say, I made a mistake.
That's brave. That's brave.
But by doing that, by admitting that, what I saw, what happened was the exact opposite of what I had imagined was going to happen. What I imagined was going to happen was when you stand in front of your team and go, I blew it, that they're all going to go, yeah, well, so we can't trust him anymore. But instead, what I saw was them saying, well, let me help you with this. Can I help? Can I come alongside here? What if we tried? Yeah. And it actually, my humility to admit that I made a mistake, that in itself empowered my team to come alongside of me. Now, I've also been around leaders that say, where clearly they were the one who dropped the ball, but they look at the rest of the team and go, boy, you really let me down here on this. Well, that's a defense mechanism because it still makes me look good because I get to tell you how you fell short on this, and it disempowers the team.
Right.
So it was a very, I guess it was a brave thing for me to do it the first time. But let me tell you, once I did it the first time, and you realize how the team responded, it made it a lot easier the next time to say, hey, I made a mistake. And it also gave me a greater level of ability to extend grace to somebody else on my team, that when they made a mistake, that I could come alongside and say, hey, look, I made that same kind of mistake myself.
For you who are viewing this, lead by example. That is that. Right. I messed up, dropped the ball, I forgot, didn't do my best. I'm really sorry, team, I let you down. I love saying this title of the book. It's a Patrick Lencioni book. It's called Get Naked. It is not a naughty book. It's a book about transparency as a leader. And I thought when I read that book, and then you take notes because you're like, oh, that's a good point. The interesting part about transparency is if you wish to have a fully engaged team with you as a leader, they have to know you.
Yes.
And if you pose, pretend, and you're plastic, they're going to join you in that pose, pretend, plastic mindset versus, hey, you know what? I dropped the ball. What do we do? And you invite them to help. And the amazing, cool thing with a team, when you lead it healthy, which you are, you lead healthy, they want to jump in and help.
Right.
And that's the cool part, is helping. Like, you dropped the ball, but you didn't say, I'm such a putz. And they didn't say, you are a putz. They were like, well, we can help.
No, we'll pick the ball up for you. Let us help.
Right. And then there's reciprocity as a team, where someone else drops the ball and someone else on the team says, hey, Mary, I get it. You've got a lot going on. I didn't know it was all coming to a head with this event and people coming on campus or whatever the story is. What can I do? So it's not a finger pointing. Right. I think there's some freedom in that.
Yep. Another fear that I struggled with as well was this idea of giving authority or giving power to somebody else, because the thought, again, wrongly, the thought in my mind was that if I gave the project to somebody else and they did it well, that then people would say, well, then why do we need you? Why do we need you there if other people can do it? And so my fear would have been to, I don't want to look bad. So I will hang on to it. I'll do everything myself. But I found that the more that I empowered other people and gave them authority to do it, surprise, surprise, that not only did they grow, but I did as well.
I think there's a nice lesson in switching the fears to be, these are learning points.
Yes.
Making a mistake. I wish that could be a culture for most companies. I know some just won't get there, but more should be able to get there. If you don't try, we'll never know. And so you have to almost say, you tried it. The outcome wasn't what we wanted or what you wanted. What would we do different? I mean, we're not going to write you up and this is your third strike. It's that sort of culture needs to have a safety to actually find out. You have other brave and courage strong leaders on your team. But if you produce fearful experiences by mistakes, you're endorsing them not to share or do their best. And I think the bravery, it's so fun to watch. You did that? You took initiative?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Susan, that's awesome. Or Bill, that's terrific. And you encourage the attempts.
Yes.
Well, you went outside your box. And where have you seen that, umpteen times in your wonderful career?
Well, I'll tell you where I learned that lesson as a young kid was on my Little League team. We had a dad that had played college ball, and so he was going to work with us. And I remember standing at the plate during practice, and the first couple of pitches that went by, I just took them. I didn't swing at them. And I remember him saying to me, I can still remember this. He said, if you don't swing, you don't give me anything to work with. I can't work with anything if you just stand there and just watch the pitches go by. And I said, okay, I got that, and then because, once you swing, then he can say, you're putting your hands over here, or you're shifting your weight, or that sort of thing. I'd kind of forgotten about that until I got into some leadership positions later on, and I realized, I see some people, they have a fear of making a mistake as well, because they think, well, the boss is going to say,
that's too costly.
2 strikes, 3 strikes, oh, you're out of here. But I had to come alongside them and say, unless you take a swing at something, and it's okay if you swing and miss, that's fine. At least you've given me something that I can coach. If you just stand there and do nothing, I have nothing to coach. And so I think that's part of, you almost have to give the people on your team permission to, hey, take a big swing at it. And if you miss,
I like it.
I have something to work with. And if you hit, great. We can all celebrate.
This correlates to our coaching program for leaders. If you don't swing, we can't help you.
No.
And if you stand there, there's nothing to improve on. You're not really participating in the game.
Right.
And I think from my experience coaching people, fear is a big deal, because I went to my supervisor and they didn't like my idea. So now we're really working with a culture. The leader who you coach, my example, he struggled with, well, why would I try again? Because they haven't encouraged, ideas and or risk taking, because that's really where the fear gets beat by being brave or courageous. I think the challenge for me, fears hold you back. There's that one TV show, Fear Factor.
Yeah.
And I think instead of spiders or snakes or, height, you could put in, mistakes or perfectionism, or I need to control because life's too chaotic, or other fears. What would they be that leaders would maybe face?
Well, I think that what happens if I drop the ball and the company goes bankrupt? I think people are, the problem that I think with too many of our fears is that we're always thinking worst case scenario.
Ooh,
what is
nice.
what is the worst thing that's going to happen if I do this? We try this new marketing campaign and it goes bump, and we lose all this money, and then we got to lay people off. Well, yeah, but if you try this marketing campaign, what if it works? What if it connects and you get all this business that you have to hire more people? And it goes back to an episode that we had earlier where we talked about hope.
Yeah.
I think hope and fear are really the opposites of each other. The fear makes you say, oh, well, worst case scenario. Hope says, no, best case scenario. What's the best thing that could happen here?
The taking initiative is so hard to teach.
Yes.
But if you set the stage for a culture of safe, they will try things that they're fearful of.
Yes.
Right. At the same time, if you say, be brave, try, I dare you. They're like, well, what's the repercussions? Well, within parameters, try stuff, because that's how we get better at delivering a service or a good or a product or whatever. I think the part that is fun with addressing fear is bravery really is the step that I'm going to leave fear behind.
Yep.
And be around others who encourage, hey, you know what? I think that's a bad situation at your company. We should talk. Oh, you recognize it too? Yeah, I've got some ideas for you. You can go to your boss with this, or we might want to update your resume to get moving, because it's not the right place. And that's okay too. That might be the brave decision.
Sure.
Well, I fear leaving because I'm so used to this. I've been here 12 years. And I think comfort sometimes moves into fear because we're not staying in pace. How do you encourage people, Craig, who might be stuck? Like, well, I don't know if I want to do that. I'm already this age, or whatever.
Well, you use the word comfort. I found that a lot of people, the comfort zone, like I talked about earlier, how fear shrinks us. Yeah. I found that people's comfort zone is usually pretty small. My job as a leader is to try to find ways to get people to stretch out of their comfort zone, but still keep them in a spot where they're gifted. So
that's very good.
One example that I think of is our good friend Josh. When I remember when I first came to pastor the church, he had just graduated from high school, and I said, "What do you want to do?" And he says, I'm not sure." He says, "I think that I'm supposed to do something in ministry, but I don't know what that's going to be." And I remember telling him this should be the safest place for you to experiment, is right here. And so we tried things, and there were things that we tried that he would say, that's out of my comfort zone, and we'd try it and then say, you know what? I don't think that's really in your gift zone either. So let's scrap that one. Let's try something else. And then eventually we found something out of his comfort zone that was definitely still in his gift zone. And that's where I watched him begin to blossom. So I made the first brave step to let him try this thing, but then he continued to take the brave steps and grow outside the comfort zone, but stay in his gift zone, and, just watch him just, blossom and grow. So it really, I think we as leaders have to go first. And, bravery is not like, it doesn't have to be some huge, massive stand. It's me against the army of thousands all by myself. Sometimes bravery is just one step farther than you went before.
Well, bravery could actually be not being fearful.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't mean that you did anything fabulous. You didn't invent anything. You didn't win a prize. But you're just, I'm going to address this fear and move forward no matter what. I think fear is, always that, like, you open a pool up in the spring, the water's a little cold, and the kids are on the pool, like, who's going to go in first?
Right.
Is it going to be cold? Once the first person goes, it's just a splash fest.
Yep.
I love that challenge to the leaders listening today, is you have to lead from fear to bravery. Bravery just doesn't pop on you.
Nope.
Doesn't land on you. Sometimes it's the flexing of the muscles to, what, I'm okay. I can work through this fear and play in the brave space, even though I might make a mistake or two.
Right.
So it's okay. But bravery is picking that. So I had the gift of, I shared this with you on the phone the other day. I had the benefit of adopting some kids, and it really is quite rewarding. People don't know what to say. They'll. So one was from Guatemala, one was from Ethiopia. And so you're walking through a grocery store. Are they sisters? Or are those yours?
Yeah.
Yep. And I think the other part, when they say some silly things, so they don't know what to say, they're excited. They'll be like, "Oh, you're so brave for adopting." And I shared with you, that's really not my position on it. I believe the mom who knew she wasn't able to take care of that child the best it was planned,
right,
whether that's economics, whether it's housing or health, whatever it is, and they choose to, God, I'm going to give you my child back, and you find a home that may be better than what I'm current in. And I think the adoptive moms who give up their child are so brave, because it's a huge, huge decision. And I love it when they birth and they do a great job and they're a wonderful mom. I love those stories. But on those one occasions, bravery is the mom who gave up the child knowing that she just didn't have the material means.
Yes.
And I think that's what our challenge is with leaders, is how to be brave and say, that's not my sweet spot. That's not my space. And you've been able to assess that with other leaders.
Yeah. Say, I'm not good here, but you are. And
Right.
there's a brave move on my part to, number one, admit I'm no good there.
Yeah.
And then number two, to say to this other person, but I think that you are, if you'll be willing to step out of your comfort zone, but you're still in your gift zone, and I'm right here alongside you. I think that's huge.
You've done a wonderful job empowering people through your career at different leadership roles. And it has to build courage in the people when they know, you got this. If you need me, it's not delegating and leaving them high and dry.
Right.
It's you've developed. And that's really our challenge for leaders, is to develop leaders. Like, give me some good ideas. Don't come in here and complain on the problem.
Right.
What 3 solutions did you come up with? Well, I like this. Oh, those are a heck of a great ideas. Wow, which one you want to go with?
Yep.
And you want me to go with it?
Yeah. Run with it. Right.
That's all good. And I think the person almost swells up in a courage, confidence as a leader.
Yes.
I'm going to read a quick quote.
Yep.
It's got some sentences here that bravery is the audacity, I kind of like that word, the audacity to be unhindered by failures, and to walk with freedom, strength, and hope in the face of things unknown. And I think that's the fear part as well. I'll just do this job the same way, because then I don't get in trouble. I won't go anything extra. Well, that's where we've noticed those people and say, that was a wonderful way to go. So when my challenge to you on being audacious about bravery versus fear, what's one finishing quote or a line that you challenge?
What I would encourage you to do, listen, bravery usually is this first step of just saying, I'm afraid. And I'm fearful of this, and I need to step forward. That's where Greg and I in our coaching huddles, where we can help you, or you've got another friend, that just making that admission to them, I think fear has held me back here, and I want to be able to step forward. That one admission alone, that vulnerability, that transparency to somebody that you trust, is a very brave step. And just doing that, I promise you, it's going to unleash a lot of resources, because no longer are you saying, I've got to take care of all this by myself, but you're trusting somebody else to come alongside. So go to Maximize Leadership and look at our coaching huddle information. That's where we want to help you. You could tweet at us as well at Maximize Podcast and say, hey, would you guys talk about this? Say, I'm no good in this area and I want to get better. And that would be a topic that we could bring up in an upcoming episode. Find other people around you and say, hey, listen, I trust you enough to admit to you that I'm afraid of stepping out of this area, and wait and see what kind of resources and encouragement that they're going to bring to you. We want to be here to keep on resourcing you, so make sure that you subscribe to our channel on YouTube or on Spotify, and then that way you'll be notified every time that a new episode drops. We look forward to talking to you soon.
Get in touch with Craig and Greg through Twitter at Maximize Podcast or at MaximizeLeadership.com. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes of The Craig and Greg Show.